Check out ESPN Film's newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All right, busy day in sports coming up. And my name is Doug Kezirian, joined by Myron Medcalf here. We're filling in for the Right Time with Bomani Jones, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Myron, I'm psyched, man. 3 hours, and we have a lot to get into.
Let's do it, man. I'm excited, man.
Yeah, Myron and I will be with you today and tomorrow, so good stuff to get through. And, of course, you can always reach out to us at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at ESPN Radio or ourselves directly at Doug ESPN or at Metcalf by ESPN. Not going to lie, Myron, I try hard to avoid these stories. But this has legs. This is interesting. And interesting for many reasons. I want to lean on you first because LaVar Ball has aspirations. I'm not going to say dethrone the NCAA, but he wants to start a basketball league for basically one and done and then other guys trying to get in to the next level and basically avoid college hoops and actually make some money. Up to $10,000 a month and have a 10-team league, plays in NBA arenas. And, you know, look, there's obviously a giant population out there that is anti-NCAA not paying athletes, especially guys like football and basketball that generate such revenue for the universities. I'm going to lean on you because you are plugged into the college basketball world. I've interviewed you when you were at an event where LaVar got kicked out as a coach. So what's your take on this?
It feels like it has to end this way, right? I mean, LaVar as the commissioner of his own league, I'm never surprised by anything that happens. I think the concept is fine to me. The problem with college basketball right now is you have a group of guys who are only there for the exposure to develop over the course of really 6 months, because a lot of these kids withdraw from school immediately after the season ends. And both college and the NBA, they haven't really figured out the right way to help those specific players. Baseball has a minor league system, a great minor league system. The NHL has that as well. College football is a great sort of minor league for the NFL, but the NBA and basketball is a little more complicated. So I actually respect the concept of giving the one-and-done kids a chance to go make some real money before they go on to the NBA. But I think this is terribly difficult to organize. Like, other people like this have come along and said, hey, I got the solution. I got a bunch of money. Let's put together a league. Your best situation as a good basketball player coming out of high school now, and it's been this way for decades, is to go to an elite college, play for a year, and then go on to the NBA. There is no better situation than that, not even the NBA's G League. So for me, man, I like the idea if it actually works, but I think he'll have a hard time getting this thing off the ground. I think it'll be complicated, really.
So you're absolutely right. By the way, that's the voice of Myron Medcalf. I am Doug Kezirian. We are filling in for the Right Time with Bomani Jones. So no doubt, currently the best format is to go to college. We got that. The question is this a competitive alternative and even better? So right now, and you can speak to this, there is something done called postgraduate years. And I actually did one, long story short, but I obviously did not play in the NBA. So it's actually, what happens is guys go to schools and do a 13th year, like repeat senior year, and demonstrate that they can, you know, sort of doing a simulation of a college, if you will, away from home, boarding school. And guys, I believe Kevin Garnett did it. I believe Robert Horry, Sam Cassell both played at Maine Central Institute, MCI, and other schools over the years, and they go do that. This is sort of an extension of that and also a rival of college. So if you were not academically eligible, and then there's got to be a domino effect from this huge FBI sting, Myron, that if money is dried up the illegal way, then this is the way to pay players and then also simulate the NBA game if you can get some of the top guys. Now, I think that's down the road, but I actually think this idea has legs where you can, above board pay guys.
Again, the concept on paper makes a lot of sense. I'm with you there. But the resources that you would have to invest to make this thing a valuable option for the kids who can turn pro out of high school. Here's my problem with the one and done thing. We're only talking about like 15 dudes every year who actually can pull it off, right? So you've got to get those dudes to go to this LaVar Ball League and make it popular enough to where you draw the attention of the NBA scouts. You go to college games, you draw fans, you draw money revenue. I just don't see that happening. Like, even though the FBI thing has put a cloud over the sport, again, you're still going to go to an elite school if you're one of those kids. You're going to have great resources. You're going to have great coaching, man. That's my question as well. Who's going to coach in this league? Like, do you want to go play for a coach in LaVar Ball's league, or do you want to go play for Coach K, Calipari, guys who've been there and done that? There are so many elements structurally that college basketball has and that they can offer to some of these kids that this league will not be able to. I do like the idea of paying these guys. I think players should be paid now. But I don't know, man. Can he get this off the ground and make this a viable option for the talented kids who have to wait just 6 months before they turn pro?
Couple more layers to this. So I actually think generating the funding for this is going to be easy. It's not that much money. You will have travel expenses. You will obviously have salaries, but you can generate with advertising and even a TV deal. I think the money won't be a problem. There's going to be some sort of venture capitalist, and you can generate the revenue. I think that's the easiest part. I think it's to get the talent, and how good will the talent be? Like I said, the top tier, like you said, the 15 one-and-dones, will probably early on, year 1, 2, still go to the Dukes and Kentuckys. That's given. But there will be players that maybe one of those top 15 that will not. We just heard John Gruden and Sean McDonough talk about it on Monday Night Football. Bucks running back Peyton Barber. He left Auburn after 2 seasons with 2 seasons of eligibility remaining because his mom was essentially homeless. Now, homeless is a strong word. You can't, by the book, it may not have been accurate, but some guys will just need that cash coming out of high school based on their family income. So you might get one of those 15 one-and-done guys. And then the rest will be peripheral NBA guys who maybe don't want to go to a mid-major or whatever, and they want to make some coin and then be a part of something. Now, the question also is, and I'll ask you, Myron, is LaVar Ball the proper commissioner?
I think he's the proper commissioner to draw attention to a startup league. I mean, that's perfect. How many guys could do this, and it's already the main story on ESPN, and it's already every outlet in America is behind this, right? It's actually covering this. So he's the right dude for that element of it. But like the things you described, you talked about football guys. Football is a whole different beast, man, in that if I'm an elite high school player right now, my senior year of high school, right? All I got to do is wait for about 5-6 months to turn pro. It's not that long. Whereas in football, it could be 3-4 years. Different elements. The financial piece, I get that. I think they could draw enough revenue, whether it's TV. But my thing is, are you going to get the kind of players, man, that would make you interested in watching this league? Like, would you care about this league if it was just one top 10 player and a bunch of other dudes making $3,000 a month, a bunch of other guys who are mid-major guys? Would that be appealing to you? I doubt it. And I think that's what you have to create and generate if you really want to make this a viable option for one-and-done kids.
The survivability of this is very low. I think it's going to be short-lived. There's no doubt in my mind, unless there's just some huge, like, in this case, Lonzo Ball moment. The 2 younger brothers actually give this league legs. But it's an interesting concept, like, because of what you just said. Like, you only need to play for 5 or 6 months, and then you can go to the NBA. And then there's this song and dance of student-athlete, blah, blah, blah. And then guys go focus on the draft right after. It's just, there is a little bit of farce nature to the one-and-dones. But the rest of college hoops is obviously, the applicable component. There should be something in place like minor leagues. We have baseball where you can go play straight out of high school and make some money. Now, not a lot of money, but something along the lines of this, unless you're a top pick and can get a huge signing bonus. But for the most part, you should be able to go do this. And I come back to it. With the FBI sting, a lot of that money's dried up, Myron.
See, I'm not sure that it is. I mean, clearly there were guys getting paid. We knew that before. And there are guys who get paid even now, even with the FBI stuff. I think the biggest thing, though, man, is if I go to Kansas, let's say, right, versus LaVar Ball's league. So LaVar's going to give me $10,000 a month. Let's say I'm a top 5 kid. If I go to Kansas for 6 months, you know what I get? I get a practice facility where I can practice in the gym every night of the week if I want to. I've got a barber shop in my dorm, right? Get a haircut whenever I want. Yeah. I've got a patio. I've got all these things, man, like a 5-star college basketball player, everything you expect them to have. You have that at a school like that. Or do I go to LaVar Ball's startup league, which, you know, they might have the travel resources. Are we sure about that? Like, you might be staying at a 5-star. You might be staying at a Motel 6, depending on how much money this thing generates. I just think structure is so important for a lot of these kids who are going to be pros 6 to 8 months from now. And their best opportunity to get that is something like an elite college can give them, that only an elite college can give them at this point. But I really want it to work. Let me say that. I want LaVar's league to work the same way I want the G League to invest and become a viable option for elite high school kids. Give these kids a way to make some money before they go to the NBA if you're not going to let them go out of high school. I am all for that. But right now, college is still the best option for all of these kids.
No doubt. And obviously you get great coaching in the Kansas example, Bill Self, and a support staff and a structure and all that good stuff. It's just, like I said, I would love to have avoided this issue involving LaVar Ball, but it had some intrigue, to say the least. Let us know your thoughts. Reach out the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at ESPN Radio or ourselves directly at Medcalf by ESPN or at Doug ESPN. I am Doug Kezirian alongside Myron Medcalf, filling in the right time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Straight ahead, Myron and I are going to disagree on whether Cuonzo Martin was justified and was he out of bounds going into an opponent's locker room. Next on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
We're up and running now. By the way, big day. The early signing period was today. So remember, it was moved earlier in the schedule for a few weeks. We heard about it for a bunch. Today's the big day. All these announcements for a lot of aspiring college football players. We're going to get more on that in about 12 minutes from Ed Ashoff, covers college football, does a great job for us here at ESPN. He will join us bottom of the hour. I am Doug Kezirian, alongside Myron Medcalf, filling in for the right time with Bomani Jones, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. It's time now for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. And Myron, I'm giving you the Straight Talk. I know there's just been this gushing outpouring of support for Cuonzo Martin after going into the locker room last night after Missouri beat Stephen F. Austin. He went to applaud them. Here is the head coach of the Missouri Tigers.
To another team's locker room. And I'm going to say this with Austin said. I know you're mad and upset, guys, and you should be mad because you're a talented team. And one thing I always tell our players, guys, it doesn't matter the front of the jersey. Y'all got just as much talent as we got, man. That's why I ain't telling you to make you feel good. We go home. I'm telling you real talk, man. I've never done this in my career. Guys, I'm telling you, y'all got a hell of a team. You got a hell of a coach. Y'all defend your ass off. Best defense we played all year, man. We came up short against West Virginia. So, man, you guys got a hell of a team. You can score the ball. I'm telling you, man, one big lead or not, man, you guys got a team. And you should be pissed off, guys. Because you're on the same level. Ain't no I've never been a guy get caught up in that. I've been a dirty worker all my life. I'm just telling you guys, the way y'all defend, I'm calling coach. I'm 100, so I need to learn from it. I'm serious, man. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come here, man, because you don't owe me nothing. But I just want to tell you, because I know you're upset now, but you got a hell of a team, coach. And I'm going to say it again, I've never done this in my career. Thank you, guys.
All right, that was Missouri head basketball coach Cuonzo Martin going into the Stephen F. Austin locker room last night after Mizzou beat the Lumberjacks 82-81. And look, I've never met Cuonzo Martin. I've heard only great things. And Myron, I know you have interacted with him plenty, but I'm just going to say I think this was out of bounds here. It was out of line.
What bothers you most about it, man?
Because
what is the thing that makes you go, man, I didn't like that?
I think his intention is genuine, just because there's been this outpouring of people saying how great of a guy is, and I'll just take that at face value. That's fine. I just think it's well-intentioned, but whatever he said and all that stuff that's for the handshake line. I just think the locker room is pretty sacred, and I also just think the overall feeling, if I'm a player in that locker room, I feel like I'm talked down to like a little brother of the JV team. And I'm just thinking, what gives you the right to come in here? Yeah, we already know we're good enough. We think we're better than you guys. We should have won the game or whatever it is. I don't need your validation. And let's be fair, this is not some Hall of Fame coach coming in and giving me that validation either. It's like, great, you're the head coach of the other team. We lost by a point. Get out of here. And I just think the head coach of Saving F. Austin should feel minimized a little bit by that gesture.
Yeah, I disagree. And a lot of it is because I know Konzo and I know him well. And to me, this is the last guy that I would ever say was doing this to kind of grandstand and get some attention or doing it for the TV or the soundbite. Like, that's not who he is. I genuinely think he went to that locker room to say, look, man, I've been there. I respect you guys. This guy who didn't come up and everything was handed to him. Lost his pro career when he collapsed on the court somewhere in Europe, found out he had cancer, ended up as an assistant, working his way up from the bottom. Now he's got a job a few hours away from his childhood home where he grew up in the projects, man. Like, he's one of the more genuine guys in college basketball. And Doug, trust me, I don't think that about every guy. Like, I don't think everybody who says, oh, hey, I'm a good coach. Now, I'm not in that club. But, like, Konzo to me is a different kind of dude. And I really believe he did it, didn't plan it, and just decided that, look, man, I respect these guys so much and how they play that I want to let them know. Remember, Doug, he's playing without his star, Michael Porter. He's faced all kinds of criticism at Missouri, considering some of the games they've lost. And, the Porter situation has changed projections about that team. I think it was a good gesture. Is there no room for a gesture like that in sports anymore?
Yeah, there is a room. It's called the handshake line and the post-game press conference to say those comments. Look, I don't think he was trying to do this for his own self-gratification, or I think he was 100% genuine. I think I'd be laying into him if I didn't think it was. I would have thought it was a ploy, all that stuff. No, I don't think any of that. I think based on everyone's relaying what their interactions have been, that he was 100% genuine. And he felt the pain of losing by a point and know what it could have felt like to beat a Power 5 school, right? Or, an SEC school. So I get that. I think he was sympathizing with them and he was encouraging them to stay on the grind and keep at it because they're just as good and they know what it's like to be, he knows what it's like to be in their shoes. With all that being said, there's just a better way of going about it. And that was my point. Like, I think we can all have the best intentions of doing stuff. I just think it was poor form and it was belittling. And if I was in that locker room, I'd be pretty upset.
Yeah, but I mean, Kyle Keller, the coach at Stephen F. Austin, could have been like, man, no, don't come in here. Like, he could have, if he really was against it, he could have been like, come
correct,
on.
He got permission,
we
you're right.
don't need that. So I think that's a part of it. Like, Kyle didn't kick the door down and say, everybody listen, like Mr. T or something like that. I think he just really felt that way, and I don't think it's something that you'll see him do it again. I think he just kind of felt that. I mean, he's a dude, man, for real, who comes from East St. Louis when East St. Louis was like the murder capital of America. Like, this is a dude who grew up in the projects playing with a glow-in-the-dark basketball. Like, he comes from the bottom.
I don't doubt the intention. I'm just saying it feels like it's patronizing if I'm in that locker room and I felt like I felt like it was like my big brother telling me to keep at it. One day I'm going to beat him. And like, I don't want that.
But not when you've been there, though. That's the difference. Like, to me, if Coach K or someone comes in there, I think that's a little different.
But Coach K would do that. He would do that in the handshake line all the time. Like, beat one of the other ACC schools or whatever, and he'd like congratulate the head coach, and the head coach, I would imagine, would be annoyed by it. Like, that's my whole point. You can have the best intentions, which I think Konzo Martin did. I just think the optics of the situation are something I wouldn't have done. I just think there's other ways to convey that same message than to go in their locker room and talk like that. To your point, I think it's 100% genuine. I just don't think the method he went about it was the optimal way.
But this ain't Belichick going to talk to the Steelers after beating them on Sunday. This is non-conference college basketball in early December, man. Come on. Like, to me, if there is any stage to be able to do something like that, it's something like this, where you have a guy who I think really just tried to encourage these guys. The thing about non-conference basketball, as you know, man, is they're not going to see each other again. It's not like he's playing a rival that they're going to play a month from now. That would be condescending. If it was like, Wisconsin is playing Minnesota or UCLA is playing USC and Steve Alford goes into the USC locker room, that's one thing. This was the guy who I think was like, listen, man, this is our only game of the year. We respect you, and I wish you the best the rest of the season. I bet, Doug, that if I called Konza right now, he'd say, "Look, man, I didn't want that on TV." I was hoping that didn't get out.
Yeah, it's a good point. It was
because
like a grainy cell phone video. You're right.
Yeah, I think people do that stuff and they don't want it to get out. And now he's got to answer to, okay, was that planned? I really think he tried to do something that he thought would be off camera, and I thought it was a genuine gesture. And we have to make room for some of that at this level, I hope.
That's a great call. That's a great point, Myron. I see your point because that was a grainy cell phone video. I will say this. People tried to draw the comparisons when Dabo Swinney went into the Syracuse locker room earlier this year. Two differences. One, he's just coming off a national championship, and they lost. Yeah, exactly. That was the big difference. It's like, I think it's a pro move to go do that. Hey, we're the reigning national champions. You just kicked our butt. I want to do you face-to-face and say, hey, nice work out there. You earned that and all that stuff. So little bit of apples and oranges in that regard. This is Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Alongside Myron Medcalf, I am Doug Kezirian. We're filling in the right time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. It is National Signing Day. For the first time, it was moved up into December. What effect has that had on the college football landscape? Ed Ashoff is going to join us next live to break it all down. This is The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
30 minutes into 3 hours. Right Time with Bomani Jones. I'm Doug Kezirian alongside Myron Medcalf as we are filling in for Bomani here, ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. A lot of interesting stuff going on in sports today. Stuff a little bit outside the box, like LaVar Ball, challenging the NCAA again, trying to create a new league, maybe steal some players that have NBA aspirations, skip the one and done, and go get some money in that 1 year before the NBA. So we got into that. How about Floyd Mayweather? Always looking for a cash grab. Can he actually compete in the octagon? Not a boxing ring, but MMA, the octagon. We'll dive into that in a little bit. But right now, we're going to talk a little college football. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the full Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. Right now, I want to bring in Ed Ashoff, covers college football for us at ESPN and ESPN.com, as he joins us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Ed, good to connect, as we did often during the college football season.
Yeah, I'm running on fumes with new National Signing Day. I can only imagine what's going to happen in February now if Christmas break is now signing day.
Yeah,
it's very, very weird.
I feel bad for those in your close personal ties who aren't going to get the same Christmas gifts that they would have now that early National Signing Day taking a lot of time away from you during this crucial shopping stretch here. But so I guess that's my first question, the early signing period. So what was the biggest effect that, in fact, that it moved this early on the calendar that you saw today?
I think that the staffs who were not able to build as big as some of the newer staffs, like Florida compared to Florida State, was the biggest difference, because Florida State's not having a great early signing day, while Florida signed maybe 10 guys. Emory Jones, one of the top quarterback prospects in the country, and Willie Taggart really struggled to get today off on a good start off his tenure at Florida State on a good foot. But
Ed, Chip Kelly obviously goes to UCLA, and that was the big deal in the offseason. Like, how has he done so far? I mean, are you surprised at all?
All right, so we might be having some technical difficulty. Do we have Ed still on the phone?
Hey, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, now we can. So Myron,
right,
go ahead and ask him that again.
Black hole.
Okay.
my bad. Hey, Ed, Myron here, man. I was asking about.
I blame you for the technical difficulties.
No, I blame you. It's your fault. Here's my question: do you wear a 5-piece suit when you're doing radio too, or is that just a TV thing, man? Are you wearing like something crazy now?
I put my nice shoes on so that I still feel like I'm on the job. I'm a natural sweater, so I can't put the suit on and talk on the phone, or else I'll just sweat completely through everything. So I just put on the really nice shoes for radio. I did the wingtips today for you guys.
Was Chip Kelly sweating today? I mean, how did he look compared to what you expected going into this week with his first group at UCLA?
You know, Chip Kelly did a pretty good job of turning this class into a good transition class, because it's going to be tough for him to get back into the West Coast. and really start to make his mark again. He cleaned up in Los Angeles from an Oregon standpoint when he was there. There are a lot of coaches on the West Coast and at USC who are a little afraid of what he can do, and I think that he's making his mark early. These are always going to be these are going to be tough classes for anybody. When you come in, it doesn't matter what your name is. The first class is always going to be the toughest because of relationships made with past coaches and at other schools when you open that door up to the new coaching staff. But I do think that Chip Kelly is getting off to the right foot. He's another coach that I'm interested to see in January to see how he closes. We've heard all this stuff about, he doesn't like to recruit and all that kind of stuff. At his first press conference, he shut that down and said, look, I don't know where that came from. I love to recruit, and I think we're really going to find that out in the next couple of weeks. Here's the thing. The dead period now, a little more extended for some of these coaches because they don't have a bowl game. That's a little different for Chip Kelly. I mean, he's going to be able to talk to some of these guys while another staff is coaching that team. That's going to be really interesting and weird, unlike a Florida where they don't have a bowl game, and the next couple of weeks is just kind of like, all right, well, what do we do?
College football reporter Ed Aschoff joining us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Ed, a lot of the Twitterverse is saying that Kirby Smart and Georgia are finally stepping up and giving Alabama some competition in the recruiting wars. What's your take on that?
I tweeted it out earlier, and it's probably my most liked and retweeted tweet since I've been on Twitter since 2009. I said Georgia is signing a mini NFL team right now. I mean, and that was before they just got this one kid who is the number 3 defensive end in the country. That's like their 100th 5-star that they've signed today. You are definitely seeing an Alabama-like recruiting class out of Kirby Smart this year. You saw it last year, especially with what they did in the offensive line and in the front seven. This really does mirror everything that we've seen from Nick Saban. And until they win a championship, you can't say, hey, this is the next Alabama, right? Like they have to become a perennial favorite every single year. But I'm not ready to really say they're Alabama light right now. I think they're moving past that when it comes to the talent they're bringing in. They've got to win. It's still early. Will Muschamp recruited his butt off at Florida and never made it to Atlanta. So you have to give him time one way or the other. But if they win this national championship coming up and they bring in the number 1 recruiting class, if you're Alabama, you got to start thinking things are changing a little bit. And I'm interested to see what some of these other coaches in the SEC, like Dan Mullen being in Florida, Jimbo Fisher certainly being at Texas A&M, even Jeremy Pruitt at Tennessee, can they challenge not just Nick Saban but Kirby Smart? Because right now, those are the 2 guys that everybody's going after. And for the longest, it was just Nick Saban. So the dynamic in the SEC is starting to change a little bit. And I'm interested to see how that helps all those other schools as well.
Ed, what was the biggest surprise today that you saw?
I was surprised that Florida State didn't make headlines like I thought they would. In talking with people around the SEC, it seemed like Emory Jones was going to end up at Florida. I know that there was some last-minute talk from the FSU side, and there was a little pulling at Emory's heart there early on in the day. But I thought that with what Willie Taggart kind of does as a coach and a recruiter, the excitement, the enthusiasm, I thought that he would be able to bring in a few guys to help out this class that just totally got hit when Jimbo Fisher lost. So I thought you'd see more from the FSU side. I'm not as familiar with Micah Parsons. I know he is a humongous recruit. Him going to Penn State, I don't know if it really surprised me, but what a pickup for James Franklin after he decommits and you lose Justin Fields, the best player in the country. To get one of those guys back was really big. I think the other thing that kind of surprises me is how some people are talking about, should we worry about Alabama going into National Signing Day? This is still Nick Saban, and I know that a ton of prospects signed. I was surprised at how many people signed today. I think it's like 1,500 and still growing. But Nick Saban's going to get his. Like, he's not done recruiting. He still has a whole nother month. So I'm going to pump the brakes on thinking that this class at Alabama signs is not Alabama-worthy.
Yeah, Alabama said, not reach the college football playoff, and then we can start believing it because they are 4 for 4. Ed, thank you so much for joining us. By the way, that tweet about Georgia, 303 retweets and 613 likes. So Nice work out there. Nice work on the beat. Obviously, you've been great all season. Looking forward to your work the rest of the way. Now you can go focus on some Christmas shopping.
How about that? Appreciate it, guys. Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Thanks,
That's Ed Ashoff joining us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. I'm Doug Kezirian, joined by Myron Medcalf. We are filling in here the right time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. The latest report has Floyd Mayweather discussing and maybe negotiating a deal to get him into the octagon. Yes, Conor McGregor came into the boxing ring. Will Floyd go into the octagon and fight mixed martial arts with an opponent? We'll discuss that next on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
I'm Doug Kezirian alongside Myron Medcalf. We're filling in for Bomani Jones. The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, filling in today and tomorrow. Bomani will be back in January with the Right Time podcast. So make sure you go download that and check it out as well. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. And let us know your thoughts on this topic on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed at ESPN Radio or ourselves directly at Doug ESPN, at Medcalf by ESPN. And this goes out to where I used to work, Las Vegas. I worked there 7 years before coming here to Bristol at ESPN and covered UFC a lot, covered boxing a lot of interviews with Floyd Mayweather, a lot of interviews with Dana White. We saw those two worlds merge this past summer with the big fight of Floyd and Conor McGregor. Well, now Floyd says he's currently discussing a deal where he would head into mixed martial arts. That's according to UFC President Dana White. Myron, I think there is absolutely no chance Floyd gets into an octagon and competes in full MMA.
Yeah, I mean, first, I love the fact that we're both big UFC and boxing guys. But this is crazy. It's crazy in that it's just such a difference. Like, Conor going to the boxing ring wasn't crazy from a skill standpoint. It was like crazy in terms of he didn't have the experience. He was had no chance against Floyd, but
yeah, and going up against an undefeated boxer and arguably the best boxer, pound for pound all time. True. Not just Conor going into a boxing ring.
Very true. But I mean, it wasn't like people expected much from Conor, and it wasn't like he had to develop this completely new skill set to try to compete, right? If Floyd goes into the cage, it's night and day. I mean, you can't just be a stand-up guy. You can't just punch in the UFC cage. You get kicked in the leg. You get submitted. I think this is a joke. Like, I don't think there is anything to this, man. Like, I would be willing to bet a lot of money that we will never see Floyd in the cage. But this is interesting that, the UFC is in the middle of a negotiating period, trying to figure out their next moves with their TV deal. And they're getting a lot of attention in what has been a pretty lackluster year. So they're at least getting that. But Floyd in the cage with Conor, come on, man. We're never going to see that.
I will concede this to Dana White. He said Floyd talks a lot of crazy stuff, but when has he said something and hinted towards something and it not come to fruition? Point taken. But I'll say this. Look, I've covered a lot of UFC fights, and I was always afraid to go to the restroom and bump into a guy because there's like hundreds of guys in there who are like aspiring MMA guys. And you never know if you bump them the run. I'm not joking. At a UFC card, I would take 200 guys in the crowd ahead of Floyd Mayweather in the octagon.
Exactly what I said
about
Conor.
If you're the most amateur MMA guy, you are better at MMA than Floyd Mayweather because, like you said, it's like we talked about Usain Bolt, one-dimensional athlete, like run fast, trying to compete in football. That's really what this is like a track star trying to play soccer. Like, you just can't do that. It's just you need a variety of moves. And that's not applicable here with Floyd.
Yeah, and you can get kicked in the head. I mean, that's the thing. It's like punching, at least like what the opponent can do. They can throw punches. There are a number of punches, but that's all they can do. MMA is a whole different deal. You can get submitted, kicked. I just don't think Floyd has never taken many risks, right? That's why he's made so much money in the last decade. He doesn't take risks. This is a huge, huge risk. And I don't think he's going to take it. Yeah, I don't think this will do anything beyond today's rumors.
He fought, whether it be Oscar or he fought Pacquiao way past their prime. He knows how to do this. But to Floyd's point, he is known for a cash grab, and he does make things interesting, as does Dana White. So, as is usually the case with those two, to be continued. He is Myron Medcalf. I'm Doug Kezirian. We're filling in here for the Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Straight ahead, billboard material with Rob Manfred, baseball commissioner, and Dan Le Batard earlier today. It got feisty, and we're going to dive deeper into that next.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Check out ESPN Films' newly released 30 for 30 podcasts. From the producers of our award-winning documentary series, this is an amazing collection of sports stories you need to hear to believe. Speaking of amazing, Delta Airlines and the Fly Delta app make your travel experience amazingly easy with real-time bag tracking, e-boarding, and passport scanning during check-in. And don't forget to download 30 for 30 podcasts to fill your flight with stories that will keep you coming back for more.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
All right, kicking off hour 2 of 3 here. Doug Kezirian alongside Myron Medcalf filling in for Bomani. The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Bomani will be back in January with the Right Time Podcast. So go make sure you check it out on ESPNradio.com and also iTunes. So a lot of good stuff with there. Beginning in 2018, the Right Time is brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Drive sober or get pulled over. So earlier today, Dan Le Batard, who, as many of you know, lives in Miami, from Miami, certainly knows the Miami sports scene and hence the history with the Marlins over the years of winning a World Series, fire sales, and then subsequent fire sales as well. And Myron, it got heated. And we're going to check it out. Rob Manfred, Major League Baseball commissioner, joined the Dan Le Batard show earlier today discussing all sorts of things, whether it be the fire sale, Derek Jeter's involvement, and the commissioner maintains he was unaware of the intention to sell and get fire sale these players when the ownership group wanted to purchase the Miami Marlins.
Who is Bruce Sherman? Who is he, and why was he approved? Because all the bids came in low on cash.
That's actually not true. I mean, I know you keep saying these things on the radio, but you have no idea what the cash was in this deal. The fact of the matter is, this club, after the transaction, had the same amount of debt as it had pre-transaction, and the largest commitment of equity of any franchise in the history of Major League Baseball.
But Rob, they have to
the single largest commitment of equity ever in the history of the game.
But I know that, Rob. I know that part. The reason I interrupt you is because I think you cared more about that $1.2 billion asking price than you did about the fans of South Florida.
Yeah. Well, can I tell you something? You actually have no idea what I care about and don't care about. The fact of the matter is, a competitive club in each one of our 30 markets is my foremost concern.
Well, but Rob, you got a problem here now, though, because you're not going to have many fans. They want to get the revenue up. They're not going to be able to get the revenue up because of the hostility in this market, because this has happened 4 times. And now what happened after trading Cabrera with a new stadium with Giancarlo Stanton? Like, the revenue's never going to get up unless they win. And if they don't win, then we've got a ballpark and baseball just failing here at everything but business, because you still got your $1.2 billion.
I know that you have yourself fairly worked up on this topic, but I'd offer you the following facts as a matter of perspective. Okay, baseball has always been a cyclical business. Probably the best example of that is what we've seen in the last 5 years. In 2012, San Francisco and Detroit were in the World Series. They're going to pick 1-2 in the draft this year. In 2013, based on 2012 results, the teams that were 1 through 5 in the draft, Houston, the Cubs, Colorado, Minnesota, and Cleveland, were all in the playoffs this year. The strategy that apparently the Marlins have adopted is one that is tried and true in baseball. I'm not saying it's without pain. As a matter of fact, I think the fans in Houston endured some bad seasons. But it was a process that ultimately produced a winner, and that process is really dominant in terms of the thinking in our game right now, in terms of particularly smaller markets' ability to win.
That was Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred earlier today with Dan Le Batard on the Dan Le Batard Show. I'm Doug Kezirian with Myron Medcalf here, filling in for the right time with Monty Jones, ESPN Radio, and the ESPN app. All right, a lot to get into there, Myron. First things first, he did raise facts, but those are cherry-picking stats that don't apply to what the Miami Marlins did. In those scenarios, it's apples to oranges. It's not like those teams fire-sailed players. They had, Marlins, meeting a couple months ago, had a nucleus that they could have added to, but they went the cheap route. And it wasn't like it was the Astros and those teams that had to rebuild through the draft. They didn't get cheap, they didn't get rid of all their talent that they already had. In fact, they were trying to get the talent that the Marlins had 2 months ago.
Yeah, and Dan, I think, points to the biggest challenge in Major League Baseball in when you have a team like that and you finally have some of those pieces. There's always that threat that you're going to lose them if you're a smaller market team. I mean, I grew up as a Milwaukee Brewers fan, and this was the life we lived for 20 years. You always knew that you were never going to hold on to the stands and guys like that. And I think Dan made a great point. How can we do a better job of putting teams like the Marlins in a position where you don't do the fire sale, where you add to that, and maybe you find a way to win? We're all talking about the Astros this year. Give it 3 to 5 years, and let's see how many of those guys are still on that roster. That's the problem. If you're not the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers, you don't have a chance to add some of these key pieces that you need to be in contention every year. I think Dan made great points. This was a money grab for Major League Baseball. Clearly, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that Jeter and the ownership group planned this from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Right? Like that's the thing. That's the thing with me. Like, don't pretend like you didn't know this was the deal. Like, clearly they went into this with that plan. And if you're the commissioner of baseball, you had to have some idea that this was a part of the plan. And I get where Dan's coming from, man. I support everything he said in that interview.
I totally agree. And again, Dan lives in Miami, has lived in Miami his entire life, and thus is a fan and understands the situation, certainly understands the pulse of the Miami fan base. This goes for the Marlins. This goes for all baseball owners. This goes for all sports owners. I am so sick of these guys who make their money with capitalism and through businesses and P&L sheets and everything like that, and then they purchase a team. The team is supposed to be a piece of artwork. It's supposed to be a luxury. You are one of the 30 richest guys, if it's the NBA, 32 in NFL. Like, it is artwork. It is a luxury. It is not something you are going to make money on a day-to-day basis. It is the luxury of being filthy rich, and when you want to sell it down the road, you will get all your money back and then some on the return. So for you to start doing stuff based on a P&L sheet and you can't stomach being in the red for that long because how you got filthy rich is because you were always making money and making profit. I just think you have to shut off that side of your brain. Otherwise, it's not fair to the fans. In fact, I think all owners should own their stadiums as well and then make money with concerts and everything else, off-season, all that. It is insane that the fans, who are the reason you're making huge money off the TV deals, are also paying for your stadiums and everything else and the ticket prices. Like, it's a luxury because if you don't want to own it, get lost. Someone else will, because it's bragging rights amongst other filthy rich dudes. And there's also perks of just, I don't know, saying you own a team and going to the Super Bowl and having that competitive edge or that itch scratch. I just think it's insane that we've gotten to this point that guys make all this money and buy a team, and then they have to make money on a day-to-day basis on top of that. It's insane.
I'm with you, man. I don't think that Major League Baseball owners care about the fans anymore. And I'm not saying that every owner is in that position, but a lot of them are. The reality is what you just explained is what so many teams have lived year after year. If you're a Yankees fan, congratulations. If you're a Red Sox or Dodgers fans, kudos to you. This is not a problem that you have, or have had in recent years, I should say. But for the rest of us, it is so difficult to go through a season and wonder when, hey, can we afford this young player who's coming up? Are they going to be gone? Like, what do you think Bryce Harper's going to end up making? $500 million or something crazy like that? There are like 2 teams that might have a shot at him. So when you see this Marlins situation, it's a complete disconnect from that fan base. When you do something like that, you're saying, I don't really care what the fans think. This is about my bottom line and the investment that I made. It's not about giving these fans a great product and trying to build a contender, because a lot of teams are in situations where they don't have a choice. They're just not that good. They got to build from the ground up. That was not Miami's situation. So I hate when people are talking like the Marlins were starting from the bottom. No, they had one of the best players in baseball, arguably the best player in baseball. They had guys to build around, and they chose to sell those players, start from scratch, put a horrible product on the field, and expect you, the fans of Miami, to pay for that? That's a joke. And I understand why Dan was that passionate, because that's how so many fans feel around the world when they don't have the respect of their ownership.
It's in the owner's DNA, because, case in point, they got to become an owner of a sports team because it's in their DNA. Take, for example, with the Cavs and LeBron. Remember he was suffering from dehydration in the finals against the Spurs? Well, the problem is they were such a thin roster because Dan Gilbert got cheap. So even when you have LeBron, the best player of the last 15 years, and even when you have a chance to win a title, they are cutting corners. I'm a Laker fan. Dr. Jerry Buss was great, but even he cut some corners during the Kobe Shaq era. Couldn't get a good backup point guard, things like that. They cut corners because in their luxury tax penalty, LeBron got very upset with the Mike Miller thing and all that. So what did he do? He took leverage back from Dan Gilbert and did the one-year contracts, because as the world's best player, he had that leverage and that luxury because he could still get a max deal every year. Not everyone can do that. So that's why he took the power away, and he was burned bridges with Miami to come full circle with the Heat as well. He wanted the power because these owners would cut corners and try to save money because they were paying so much, because it's in their DNA. That's how they became owners. It's how it is, and it's never going to change. I wish it would, but that's the case. So Rob Manfred, and good on Dan Le Batard by calling him out on stuff, and good on Rob Manfred for just at least owning some of that conversation and not completely getting off the horn. Alongside Myron Medcalf, I'm Doug Kezirian. We're filling in here at the right time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Another owner might have a decision to make regarding his superstar, because Tom Brady's guru has now left the building, as in Gillette Stadium. What does that mean for Brady's future? Well, we're going to pull a quote from Brady's dad from a few years ago and try to connect some dots and read between the lines. Why? Because that's sports radio. Next on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
You know who used to get all the royal treatment was Tom Brady. Now, not so much. I'm Doug Kezirian, by the way, alongside Myron Medcalf. Filling in here on the Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. By the way, Bomani's podcast, The Right Time podcast, will return in January. So make sure you check that out on ESPN Radio, ESPN app, as well as iTunes. So Tom Brady, obviously, Tom Terrific, the face of the New England Patriots. His longtime trainer, according to a report in the Boston Globe, has been stripped of various team privileges, and that is including boarding the team plane, treating any other New England Patriot other than Tom Brady. And obviously we're waiting word on what was behind this move. There's been reports that he clashed with Bill Belichick, but Brady calls him a friend. Brady said he's a huge reason why he's still playing at age 40. But it is interesting because it's Tom Brady. It is the Patriots, and they seem to keep everything so in-house and tight. And this is obviously a giant rift here.
It's also just weird, right? I don't really. What does he do? What is he? I know Brady gives him a ton of credit for his longevity and all that, but what is he actually doing that the Patriots themselves aren't doing for Tom Brady at this point in his career?
That's a great point, because remember, over the years we heard so much about the Phoenix Suns training staff. Well, whatever the Suns were doing, why weren't other teams copying them, right?
You would think.
But he's called him a genius for his recovery. Remember that knee injury week 1 against the Chiefs back in 2008, his recovery from that, and pliability. And we know about Brady's strict diet and everything along those lines. So, but it's just, Brady got a hall pass, for lack of a better phrase. And this is obviously a story, and it makes you think, because Belichick is well known for, getting rid of a guy a year too early instead of a year too late. And if that's the case, we have all wondered what's going to happen with Brady, because he is on record, so to speak, saying he wants to play until he's 70, obviously joking on that. But this is a guy takes care of his body like, nobody does. So He wants to do this deep into his career, and we've quotes from his dad basically in articles within the last couple of years saying this is not going to end well. And so the question is, Myron, do you see Brady playing his last football game for the Patriots? Excuse me, let me just rephrase that so it doesn't get taken out of context. Will he ever take a snap for another team?
I don't see it, man. But I also think this is a unique situation. We have never seen a player like Tom Brady. We've never seen a quarterback playing to this age at this level. He looks like the MVP right now. Manning had the neck injury. Brett Favre didn't look this good. Other guys have pushed the limits, played late in their careers, but they didn't look like this. So it's hard to say that, he's done after another year. He could play 3, 4, 5 years. It seems like it. And the Patriots don't have a real backup plan right now. So for me, it appears that he's the quarterback now and into the future for this Patriots team, and he's going to do something that we have never seen probably in the NFL. Doug, why would you make him upset, though? If you're in that situation and you're the Patriots, you don't have a backup plan, he's playing this great, why would you do something in the middle of the season, coming off a crazy win on Sunday, to disappoint him, to make him upset?
Something happened.
Mess with this guy.
That's my point. Like, something had to happen for all the reasons you just mentioned.
But what, And I think that's the weird thing is they're saying
can run rampant, but
true, but they're saying he can't treat other players. Like, what was that about? Was he coming in and guys were in training sessions and he was like, "Hey, bruh, if you want to get that real leg massage, come over here." Like, what was he doing to disrupt the Patriots' flow that they're saying no?
Well, I think
can't work on anyone but Tom.
Theories and styles and approaches to certain, aspects of medicine or whatever. I don't think it was anything shady. Well, I mean, that's just my opinion. I don't know anything. Yeah, I mean, there could just be scented candles, right? No, but it's look, we have our school of thought. You do what you will with Brady. Obviously, we respect what you do, and you do a great job with him. But we have our Patriot way in our own locker room and training room. But something had to have happened, and I'm sure it'll come out at some point. But I think with Belichick, I think he's done when Brady's done. I think if this were 5 years earlier in Belichick's career, I think there'd be a point where he'd be willing to move on from Brady and blah, blah, blah. But I think they're going to go out together. I really do. And I don't see – look, they tried to hang on to Jimmy Garoppolo. Belichick said that for as long as we could. They were going to lose him this offseason as a free agent. I guess they could have kept franchise tagging him. But the moral of the story is I don't think Brady goes elsewhere. I think he gets to play in Foxborough as long as he wants.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you because –
But crazier things have happened. Crazier things have happened.
But not to a guy looking like this at this stage because we haven't seen it. So it's really hard to compare this. The weird thing to me is Belichick's the kind of guy who hates drama, right? Like he hates drama and does everything to avoid distractions. This seems like a big distraction in the middle of a playoff run where you're getting ready to start a really crucial part of the season. Like, that's the thing. The timing of it, Doug, does not make sense to me. Why now? Probably he did something. But
something happened, all right.
True, but was it one thing? Was it a series of things? Then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you can't be a part of the team anymore? It just seems pretty drastic, and I don't know why you want to upset a guy who looks like the MVP right now.
It is going to be juicy. I mean, look at it. It's the Patriots. They're the Super Bowl favorites out in Las Vegas. They are obviously the benchmark for every NFL franchise over the last 15-plus years, and the fact that it's Belichick and the fact that it's Brady to a different degree make it all so interesting. So to be continued on that. He is Myron Medcalf. I am Doug Kezirian filling in here. The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Up next, we're going to talk to a guy who played in Foxborough. Damien Woody knows a thing or two about the Patriots and more so everything going on in this playoff push. I'm going to ask him what it's like for contenders this time of year with a couple of weeks to go and pretenders who are really out of the playoffs, and do they have one foot out the door? We'll discuss that and more with ESPN NFL analyst Damien Woody next on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Halfway into these 3 hours, Doug Kezirian alongside Myron Medcalf filling in here. The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. I've had some good stuff already tonight. Talked a little UFC with Floyd Mayweather, that possibility. The Miami Marlins fire sale that everyone saw coming, unless your name is Rob Manfred, baseball commissioner, and he joined Dan Le Batard. Good stuff. By the way, go check out the Dan Le Batard podcast for the full interview with the baseball commish, or go check it out on ESPN.com. Some good stories there as well. Right now, we're talking a little NFL. Damien Woody, three-time Super Bowl champ, joins us now via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Damien, how are you, big man?
I'm good, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I first want to start with one of your former teams. By the way, two-time Super Bowl champ. I misspoke there. So Tom Brady's personal trainer, Alex Guerrero, has had some restrictions now on his access. But just overall, like, you've played for a few teams. What's it like? In your eyes, what's your reaction to just a guy having a personal trainer that maybe has to interact with the team training staff and just all the nuances involved?
Well, listen, first of all, I mean, I think Tom and Alex Guerrero's situation is unique in and of itself. You don't see a lot of guys that have that type of situation with the team and a guy that he deals with on a personal basis, the type of relationship that they had, that's rare. You don't really see anything like that. Most guys, they'll deal with their personal guys away from the facility, but for Alex Guerrero to have that access, not only to the facility, but, apparently, flying on the planes with the team, sideline access, I think this was more about Bill kind of reining in and saying, you know what, maybe from a liability standpoint, because a lot of the guys on the team were seeing him, and just getting back to we want one voice, and we're going to limit his access a little bit.
Damien, Myron Medcalf here. We have obviously never seen anything like Tom Brady, a guy playing at this level, at this age. If you had to guess right now, how many more seasons does he have left?
That's a great question. And it's hard to put a number on it because, when you play a game like football, all it takes is the slightest things. Remember in 2008, Tom Brady got, had his knee blown out in the very first game by a guy just accidentally, hitting him in his knee. So in this game, you just never know. But, I mean, he's playing at such a high level. I can make the argument he's playing better now than he was when he was 30 years old, which is absolutely crazy. But that's a testament to how well he takes care of his body and obviously playing under Coach Belichick and just being in the same system for all these years. So it's really unpredictable how long he can do it. But like I tell everyone, just enjoy the ride because, we might not see anything like this for a long time.
ESPN NFL analyst and two-time Super Bowl champ Damien Woody joining us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Damien, we're headed to Week 16 and 17 around the corner as well. Obviously, some teams like the Patriots making a playoff push, trying to get home field advantage. But there's some other teams not going to the playoffs. What's it like in those locker rooms? In terms of a competitive edge about these next two games?
Well, listen, if you're a team that's, you've been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, now's not the time to mail it in. I know, some of these players or some of these teams have what we call their engines already running, getting ready for the off season. But guess what? Your resume is your tape. So if you're out here mailing it in with 2-3 games left, guess what? Not only is the team seeing it, but the other 31 teams around the league are going to see it as well. So it does you no good to mail it in. As a professional, you got to go out there and put your best foot forward because you never know what your situation might be after the season.
Damien, there is a team in Minnesota that has all the pieces, it seems like. Great defense, a lot of great playmakers, but there's a quarterback that people don't seem to trust in Case Keenum. What does he have to do to make people finally believe in him, given all the great things he's done so far this season?
Just keep playing the way he's playing. Listen, the Minnesota Vikings wouldn't be where they are today without Case Keenum. Case Keenum has been the one thing I got to give Coach Mike Zimmer credit for. He's really keeping him on a short leash. It's not like he gave him the vote of confidence, like you're my guy the rest of the year. It's literally game to game. And this guy is just stringing together really, really good performances week to week. When you combine, his play at the quarterback position and the way the defense is playing, listen, the Minnesota Vikings are definitely in play to be that team that represents the NFC in the Super Bowl in their home stadium. I think that would be something.
Damien, let's talk about the NFC to more of a bigger picture here. Coming out of the NFC, we have obviously the Carson Wentz injury to the Eagles, the Vikings that seem to be the Rodney Dangerfield of the NFC. Saints have been impressive, and then the Rams just go into Seattle and kick the Seahawks' butt. So who do you envision coming out of the NFC?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a tough one. I'm going to say right now, the Minnesota Vikings look tough. They look tough. I would tend to lean towards the team with the most experienced quarterback, and that would be Drew Brees. But this Minnesota Vikings team is complete. Is a complete team. Defense, they're nasty. They can run the ball. Case Keenum has been outstanding at the quarterback position, and if they have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, that place up in Minneapolis, it's a tough place to play.
Yeah, their most recent loss was the third straight road game, so hard to fault them there. And before that, they haven't lost in a couple months, so they've been certainly tough.
Damien, obviously Sunday's game was the game I was talking about, Patriots and Steelers. I wanted Mike Tomlin to be more upset about how things ended. He said he wasn't going to cry over spilled milk or whatever. Were you surprised by his reaction to how that thing ended?
I'm not surprised. I think Mike Tomlin understands where he is right now. He's in a situation where you don't have time to be dwelling on the game. You gotta have a quick turnaround. You're already going to be out. Your potential MVP, Antonio Brown is going to be out for the rest of the regular season. You're in danger of losing that one of those first round buys because the Jacksonville Jaguars are humming right behind you. So you can't be dwelling over things that, quite frankly, you have no control over anymore. They lost to the Patriots. They got to focus their energy on the next opponent and try to secure one of those first round buys.
All right, that's NFL analyst Damien Woody joining us. By the way, Damien, real quick, what's it like Christmas shopping for your big family?
Let me tell you, the key word is Amazon. Amazon, my man. I call Amazon like Skynet off of what was the movie? The Terminator. That's what Amazon is, man. They're like taking over the world. So they make my life so much easier because I can just go in there, do what I got to do, and I'm good. And it comes right to me.
How many children?
7 kids, man.
Lovely family. That's awesome. Big family, a lot of love around the holidays. So our best to them as well, and of course to you. And we'll be seeing you soon here on the ESPN campus.
All right, sounds good. Take it easy, guys.
All right, two-time Super Bowl champ, ESPN NFL analyst Damien Woody joining us here. The Right Time with Bomani Jones, Doug Kezirian, and Myron Medcalf filling in on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. If you're short on time, like Damien, and searching for the perfect present, 1-800-Flowers.com is your answer. When you order the beautifully crafted holiday flower tree, you'll get 20% off. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Straight ahead, Lane Kiffin going for 2, channeling his Woody Hayes. And he also got a 10-year deal. Things are fun with the Florida Atlantic Owls. We're going to discuss whether that was appropriate by Lane Kiffin next on ESPN Radio.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
I am Doug Kezirian. He is Myron Medcalf. We're filling in here The Right Time with Bomani Jones. Don't forget, Bomani's podcast will return in a couple weeks, 2018, January. So make sure you download that. Also, check it out on the ESPN app. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. You can save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now that's Progressive. Lane Kiffin, the man, I'll give him credit for one thing. He can stay in the news. He is the LaVar Ball of college football. Well, not quite, but he does make things interesting, whether it's Twitter or actual news. He made some actual news yesterday in 2 ways. One, a 10-year extension at Florida Atlantic. Remember, this is his first year with the Owls. School record 11 wins. They're paying him nearly $1 million. They gave him a raise and an extension beyond that. So good for him good for Florida Atlantic if he actually stays through 2027. What's the likelihood, Myron, you put on that?
Probably about as likely as Halle Berry and I getting married at some point. I mean, it's an idea, right? Like, nobody believes he's going to stay till 2027. How many people believe that he'll stay to 2019 or 2020? But like you said, he's drawn a lot of attention to himself and the program. Like, I was out with Florida Atlantic when they played Wisconsin. They were dealing with the hurricane at their school, so they stayed in Wisconsin for like 6 days. He has a good team, and they really back him. That administration really loves him, and clearly they give him a lot of freedom to do a lot of this self-promotion. But for me, man, I'm over it. I'm over the, all of the promotional stuff and, the LaVar Ball-like stuff. Like, what happened yesterday in that game to me was just over the top. But it's Lane, and it's what you expect, and, that's part of why he got the extension, right? Like, he brings attention. He puts a spotlight on a school that wouldn't have one without him, right?
Well, that's what I said last summer going into the football season. I thought he was the biggest, most important hire, and everyone's like, are you kidding me? There's all these major schools. But he makes Florida Atlantic relevant. Maybe they can be the Boise State of that region. Maybe. Like some point, I mean, there's talent in that area, and if some schools are struggling, like they have, like Florida State this year, he can make them relevant. And he's doing that on Twitter and things like that, which is good in a vacuum. But to your point, there becomes a saturation point, and it gets annoying. But let's go back to what you said last night, bowl game, convincing win for Florida Atlantic. Lane Kiffin, midway through the third quarter, Owls score a touchdown to go up 36-3, and he goes for 2. Undoubtedly, he was asked about that.
Did Knox call for the 2-point conversion?
We're not going to talk about that. I told you that was their assistant athletic director, George Van Dyck or something his name was. He talked yesterday at the luncheon, talked trash, so he's bad.
All right, that was Lane Kiffin, asked about going for 2. Now, this is not Woody Hayes and Ohio State facing Michigan against your rival, and why do you go for 2? Because I couldn't go for 3. That was appropriate because it's your rival and you're sending a message, and you've earned that right being Woody Hayes. However, if you're Lane Kiffin and your track record is immature, can't handle the profile of a head coaching job, all this stuff, then that's not good. That's not what you do. This is the equivalent of a player who gets emotional because some guy talked trash and hits him across the face mask or something like that. It's a 15-yard penalty. You allow the emotions to get the best of you. Lane Kiffin, you're supposed to be a leader of men. All the reasons we praised Herm Edwards and the hire by Arizona State, Lane Kiffin, the critics, not everyone, the critics basically say he's the antithesis of that. Therefore, you can't do that stuff.
He should have gone over to the opposing locker room and gave a speech after the game like Gonzo. That would have been funny. Now, that I would pay to see.
That would have been showing up, right?
You got to do it. Why not? Now that's great TV. He should have done that. But that's ridiculous.
It wasn't right, though. I mean, you agree. You can't go for 2. We'll get into that more later as we approach the top of the hour. LaVar Ball wants to start his own basketball league, and it's not a horrible idea. Next on ESPN Radio.
Thanks for listening to the Right Time Podcast. Please come back tomorrow for more. And don't forget to listen to The Right Time with Bomani Jones from 4 p.m. to 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.